Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. It is wonderful to see you here, newcomers, longtime members, those returning, and those watching online. My name is Kamari Johnson, and I'm glad to be your celebration associate today. May we gather to nurture our connections, seek inspiration, and embrace change. And transformation is our theme for March, and I am drawn to the hopefulness this word brings. I am glad we are here together to engage in this process within ourselves and within our natural world. Today's, one second. Please take a moment to read the announcements in your order of service, including information about today's lecture. And that is entitled, Thinking About Children in the Israel-Hamas War. In this analysis, Jim Garbarino will explain how the human rights of children figure into adult calculations about war, and how they often do not. His presentation is based upon his academic and field experience as a developmental psychologist, dealing with the decades of conflict and political violence in the saga of Israel-Palestine relations. That's today at noon in the annex. And now I'd also like to call up Matt from Stewardship for another announcement.
Thank you, Kamari. Good morning. Gifting grows connection. That's our stewardship theme this year. Of course, it applies and is true every year. And boy, last Sunday, boy, did I feel that connection. We heard about the great needs that this congregation is filling by supporting Babies First. We heard about the social justice team and their multi-pronged efforts within FUSIT and in our Tompkins County community. We heard about the planned installation of a heat pump in the annex and the grant writing that's made it possible for us to live closer to our earth-friendly values. And we heard about the positive impact our RE program and our RE director, Emily, is having on our youth, our families, and our welcoming practice. I want to be clear about where your financial gift, your pledge, is going. We're pledging support for next year's operating funds, the church year that starts July 1st. Our pledges form the lion's share of next year's operating budget. The endowment offers a small annual contribution, but the endowment there is there for a backstop, not for our operations. Much of the good work of this church, like the heat pump and Babies First, is not funded from our operating budget. Operations, it sounds so mechanical and corporate. But at its core here, at the core of all the programming that brings us together and propels our mission, is a group of dedicated staff and a trio of impactful ministers. And we want to continue paying them an Ithaca living wage. The stewardship letter you received, it costs money to print. That piano, it costs money to keep tuned. There is so much happening here behind the scenes that brings us together on Sundays and every day of the week in ways that engage, inspire, and build connection. On the FUSIT website, on the homepage, there is a pledge button that you can use to make your pledge. If you prefer the old school pledge card, they are getting mailed to anyone who has not yet pledged at the end of this week. So please pledge now and save us from that mailing. By the way, did you find a sticker on your name badge today? I hope we got them to all of your name tags, but we might not have gotten there, and they'll be out there at the stewardship table. So the sticker is of our chalice and our theme, Gifting Grows Connection, and it's just meant to keep us attentive to stewardship during this month. If you have pledged, then you got a little extra smiley face on there. And when you pledge, if you pledge, you will get that smiley face. Again, those are at the stewardship table, as well as pledge cards at the stewardship table. So I welcome you to join us. There's also cookies there. Join us and pledge after the service. So lastly, I just want to say last Sunday and this week was very impressive. We've got 51 pledgers so far, and that's like 3 times what we have had at this point in the campaign in last year. Greater than 50% of those pledges were an increase from previous pledge, and over 10% of those pledgers were new pledgers. Welcome, everybody. And thank you so much.
Thanks for everybody's generosity. And now, before we light our chalice, let's take a moment to greet those around us. And now I would like to invite Megan and Stoney to help us light our chalice this morning. And can you please join me in saying the chalice lighting words which are printed in your order of service? We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action.
The opening words are by Shoghi Effendi. We cannot segregate the human heart from the environment outside us. Once one of these is reformed or transformed, everything will be improved. Woman and man are organic with the world. Their inner life molds the environment and is itself also deeply affected by it. The one acts upon the other, and every abiding change in the life of woman and man is a result of these mutual reactions.
I have a couple of friends that I'd like to invite to come forward and grab a basket as we do our Side with Love collection. I know this didn't make it into the order of service for this week. It was in the weekly announce. We are collecting for Planned Parenthood's Out for Health, which is a gender-affirming clothing closet. So our friends are going to come along in case you happen to see that notice and have anything this week. If not, we will be collecting for the entirety of March. And I invite everyone else to rise in body or spirit and join us in our opening hymn, number 359, When We Are Gathered. Good morning, friends. Now is the time that I'm going to invite anyone who'd like to come forward for our time for wonder to come and take a seat on the steps with me. Hi. Hi, friends. All right, who hasn't had a chance to open our wonder box lately? Ellie, you want to open it up? All right, what's in there today? A jar with. Oh, compost. A jar of compost. How many of you I know, super fun today, right? How many of you compost at home? You compost at home? Yeah. Our theme for this month is transformation. And transformation needs change. You can take a look at it if you want, friends. You can pass it around. I would suggest not opening it, but that's just me. We all know that compost is really important, right? So when we compost, we take bits of leaves, plants, grass, eggshells, fruit and vegetables, and they change, right, into soil. Not bread. So there are some amazing things about compost and maybe some not so fun things about compost. What are some not so fun things about compost? What do you think? That you could find it on the ground and there could be worms eating it. Yeah, what else? It smells bad. Yeah. It's moldy and gross and you have to take it out. Stephanie, did you want to add something?
It shouldn't smell bad if we do it right.
Oh, Stephanie says it shouldn't smell bad if we do it right. Maybe we're all doing it wrong up here. Yeah.
In winter, the hay that's supposed to cover the compost freezes and then you can't get the hay to go on top of the compost.
So Ellie's got hay on top of hers, and she says in the winter sometimes it freezes and you can't get it to go on top of the compost. Yeah. Oh, thank you. So someone mentioned worms, right? So you might find worms in your compost, and worm poop, right, is one of the best things for our gardens, and that's something great that comes out of compost. So a Buddhist lecturer and author named Suzuki Roshi was asked during a question and answer session if he could kind of summarize Buddhism in just one phrase. And he answered, everything changes. And then he just took some more questions. So in Buddhism, right, one of the main teachings is this idea that nothing is permanent, right? This idea of impermanence. So I am impermanent, and all of you are impermanent, and this building is impermanent, and our whole planet is impermanent, right? Everything changes. So every bit of leaf and piece of grass and bit of vegetable in our compost changes and it transforms into something new. And change can be hard sometimes, right? And it can be gross, and it can be kind of smelly. I guess even when we're trying to do it right, but maybe aren't, right? But our faith is what we call a living tradition, which means that as you use, we lift up the fact that we change and transform all the time to meet the needs of our community and the greater world, even when it's hard, right? Just like our compost changes into something new, we're changing all the time. So we're going to go upstairs now and we're going to explore some other changes, like how quickly electronics become obsolete in this world by taking some tools and taking them apart and seeing what's inside. And I'm going to invite any parents or caregivers who haven't signed in yet with Madeline and I to meet us in the parlor. And I invite everyone else to sing us to our classroom with Where You Go, which is in the back of your gray hymnal. We're going to sing Children Today.
And before we do our joys and sorrows, we actually have a matter of our lives from Matt Frankie Singer and Marie McRae. Apologies that it's not written on the order of service, but we do have them right here in person.
Right here in person. Good morning. Matt and I are here today to talk to you because we share a tremendous concern about climate change and about income inequality in our community. The Earth's climate has been knocked off kilter primarily by the vast amount of carbon emissions that have been put in the atmosphere, and most of that by human activity. Carbon offsets have been getting some press recently, primarily because of corporate use. I'm not a fan of corporate carbon offset purchases, but we're here today to tell you that in the Tompkins County, we have the Finger Lakes Climate Fund. Finger Lakes Climate Fund. The Climate Fund takes donations from real people and who want to support our community while doing something about the greenhouse gas emissions created by our building use, by our travel. A carbon offset assures that for each ton of fossil carbon, God, I can't talk this morning. For each ton of fossil carbon emissions caused by my activity, Matt's activity, your activities, we're paying for reducing a ton of carbon emissions from a low-income family. So the donations that we give to the Finger Lakes Climate Fund are transformed, and they pay for energy efficiency projects for low and moderate income households. The grant money employs local businesses to install insulation, air sealing, energy efficiency, heating equipment, and other upgrades. And Matt is one of the people who has made a donation to the Finger Lakes Climate Fund, and he's here to tell you how easy it is.
Well, that is the word, easy. So if you just go to the Finger Lakes Climate Fund, just search Finger Lakes Climate Fund, you'll find that you really only need to make 3 decisions. In my case, I wanted to offset my commute. So you just enter the number of travelers, you enter your total miles, and then the third step is you just hit the calculate offset button, and it'll tell you right there how much it will be, and you'll be surprised. My personal commute is less than $30 per month. So I think that's a pretty reasonable way to support the community and make a difference. And that's what we're doing. Also, if you're interested in other ways to make a difference, we will be having the Social Justice Coffee Circle after church next Sunday, and we'll be joining with Tikkun V'Or's folks to talk more about other environmental impacts and ways to make a difference. Thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Okay. In spirit of reverence, love, and care, we take time now to bear witness to some of the joys and sorrows of our community. We want to share those events that call for our prayers and support, our praise and celebration. This morning we have 2 appreciations to share. The first one is from Preston Wilson. Preston says, I'd like to give a big shout out to Marie Benedetti for all she has done and is doing for our community. For an example, her collaborative work in setting up and organizing our library is more than impressive. And the success of the auction over the last 2 years is in large part due to her relentless and often exhausting work, which provides not only a large chunk of cash for our coffers, but an ample amount of positive advertising for our society. In so many ways, Marie lives the giving spirit of UUism. Thank you, Marie. From our friends at Babies First, gratitude and appreciation to Barb Peck for providing beautiful handmade baby quilts to mothers of newborns who comes to Babies First for equipment. She is gifting them the joy of receiving something beautiful and new for their baby. Thank you, Barb. For those we are holding in our thoughts, in our hearts, and perhaps in our prayers, into this community and space of healing and hope, let us call these names out loud or speak them in our hearts. We extend loving kindness to all in our world, and let us not forget to extend loving kindness to ourselves. Today, tomorrow, and beyond, may our hands be outstretched in kindness. Let us keep showing up to our lives and to each other with an open heart, no matter what. Love and courage to us all. Blessed be.
Meditation this morning is from the writings of Jack Kornfield. Sit comfortably for a few minutes. Let your body be at rest. Let your breathing be easy and natural. Bring your attention into the present. Sit quietly and notice whatever sensations are present in your body. In particular, be aware of any sensations, tensions, or pains you may have been fighting. Do not try to change them. Simply notice them with an interested and kind attention. In each area of struggle you discover, let your body relax and your heart soften. Open to whatever you experience without fighting. Let go of the battle. Breathe quietly and let it be. Shift your attention to your heart and mind. Now notice what feelings and thoughts are present. Be aware of any feelings or thoughts you are now struggling with, fighting, denying, or avoiding. Notice them with an interested and kind attention. Let your heart be soft, open to whatever you experience without fighting. Let go of the battle. Breathe quietly and let it be. Continue to sit quietly. Cast your attention over all the battles that still exist in your life. Sense them inside yourself. If you have an ongoing struggle with your body, be aware of that. If you have been fighting inner wars with your feelings, been in conflict with your own loneliness, fear, confusion, grief, anger, or addiction, sense the struggle you have been waging. Notice the struggles in your thoughts as well, gently, with openness. Allow each of these experiences to be present. Simply notice each of them in turn with interest and kind attention. In each area of struggle, let your body, heart, and mind be soft. Open to whatever you experience without fighting. Let it be present just as it is. Let go of the battle. Breathe quietly and let yourself be at rest.
think about our theme of transformation. We're going to sing a song that I often take at a pretty fast tempo, but I'm going to slow it way down. And we're going to sing this, and hopefully over the course of this month, you'll have it memorized. It's a very kind of easy, kind of zipper song in some ways. It is number 168 in your hymnal, One More Step. So thinking about, as we go through our things, that our goals, how we wanted to transform, it all starts with a single step, a single action that will accumulate over time and lead to transformation.
Each week, we take an offering to sustain the important ministries and programs of this congregation and its presence in Ithaca. Giving to the plate is important. It's a symbol of our gratitude for this service and our ongoing commitment to support the work of this church. For those watching remotely, instructions for giving using your phone or computer will appear on your screen during the offertory music and in the information below the live stream image on YouTube. For those attending in person, our ushers will pass the plate, or you may donate by text using the instructions printed in the order of service. Please join me in saying the offertory words printed in your order of service. May these gifts bring about connection, inspiration, and engagement within these walls and beyond.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you. As I was sitting over there thinking, I was thinking about a childhood friend of mine whose mother always used the expression harping on something, meaning that you just won't let it go. And so I have a tendency to harp on the idea that when we want to see change in the world, we have to change ourselves. Transformation. I think of transformation from a personal perspective first and foremost, because what we feel and think will eventually translate into what we do, sometimes without even knowing it. The inner world of thought will eventually shape the outer world of behavior and circumstance. That was echoed by James Allen in As a Man Thinketh. Stage of consciousness into another on a human and social level It involves a commitment to move into an entirely new state of thinking, a reformation of what we need to do in order to live better, to live collectively, to live in a way that preserves human life and dignity. If you think in terms of a metamorphosis and think about the beautiful butterfly that comes from that process, we can think of ourselves that way when we want to see the world in better shape, when we get tired of war and hate and ugliness. We've tried changing 1,000,000 times, and here we are again, facing the same ugliness and the same destruction. So maybe what we really need is a complete transformation of who we all are, individually and together. We're all very aware of the crises that we're facing in this world: climate change, water contamination, mass starvation, despair that erupts into violence in communities, into suicide, human rights violations, global health issues, global poverty, wars, and military conflicts. I'm only naming a few. Under each of those categories, other disasters take place, human disasters within the heart and the spirit and the mind. Personal transformation can occur for many reasons: a deep individual experience, or from a collective experience as a family, as a community, as a nation. But we must understand that transformation is different from change. It really is, even though we use them to mean the same. When I change my clothes, that is not a transformation, because I could easily change back. When we transform, we cannot easily go back to what we were before. Transformation can be destroyed, but it cannot be reversed. Transformation in and of itself is enduring. As I think about the war that is presently on the forefront of our consciousnesses, I feel myself experiencing an extra layer of worry for this world and for who we are to one another. It breaks my heart every day, every minute. Sometimes we have to work hard to keep it out of our minds so that we ourselves don't fall into a state of despair. Division between people, groups, countries, political attitudes, races are not getting better. There are countless essays, articles, and books underscoring the violence and hostility exploding everywhere, even on our college campuses, because one group does not want to hear the opinion of another, whether through classroom lectures or guest speakers. Violence, mob attacks are rampant. How is that possible in our institutions of higher learning? Higher learning. It comes with higher thinking. It comes with us leaving that base self, that lizard brain, as some people refer to it as, into something better. And we're not there. I know the state of the world affects all of us. We all care about this, and we all care about one another. We care about life. And life is slipping from between our fingers every second that we speak. Life is dying not by nature itself, but by the destruction of human ugliness. In the face of the present war, and with the mindset of knowing that we must stand against war in and of itself, a couple of weeks ago, I, along with a very dear friend, Mark from the Savage Club, and another person held a ceasefire poetry reading at Buffalo Street Books. The three of us originally agreed that we were hosting a sort of anti-war event for poets. And of course, in everybody's poem, they could express exactly what they were particularly focused on, but the overall package was about getting rid of the concept of war, the need to war, the inclination to war. We want peace. And when we thought of peace, we thought about peace across the world. Because even though this war is the focus of our attention right now, you know there are wars raging everywhere. Everywhere. The Ukraine is still not at peace. So even though we're focused right now on this war, we have to keep in mind that there are people suffering and dying everywhere, every day, from war. We were concerned. We were concerned because politics often can create tension. And we didn't know who was going to show up to this poetry reading. And we didn't know if it was going to be disrupted or if somebody would be more angry than we expected. It was a struggle. It took the bookstore a few weeks to get back to us because they also had the same concerns. But we finally agreed that we would do it. And we carried on. I stressed at the onset of the reading that overall we were poets for peace against this war and the countless wars everywhere. There was a really good turnout, 25 seats and standing room only. About 12 to 15 poets read. You can imagine the array of emotions that laced each poem and the imagery and expression and experiences relevant to this particular war was countless. Me and two other organizers met a few days later to see what we could have changed, if anything at all. And it was an interesting conversation for many reasons. But the most interesting part was the one of the organizers was angry and dismayed because we didn't specify whose side we were on. A ceasefire reading was our motivation. We're against war. We're against genocide. In other words, the language of the ceasefire for me and for one of the other poets was a call for a transformation, a change from the nature of our hateful, violent, unreasonable, spiritually impenetrable selves into something closely recognizable as what we share to mean humanity. It's a big picture. It has to be the big picture of what we hope to get rid of. A transformation into something recognizable as compassion, as a willingness to come together as individuals to spend our energy developing a collective, deeper relationship and understanding that none of us will survive as long as even one of us justifies war, genocide, sociocide, ethnocide, hate, with our neighbors next door or the neighbors across the world. We must call for a transformation within ourselves and take the steps to spread out this call in loud and active ways. A day or two after the poetry reading, during our debriefing, funny word, right? Such a military word. Anyway, during the post-evaluation, what became eventual was the third person who helped organize the ceasefire decided that she would never work with us again because she needed people who took a clear side. And so in our effort for peace and closing the divides ended up with us being divided. Sad and ironic, and we wonder. The state of this world reflects a distortion of the human spirit, not its essential nature. Our goal must be to effect a transformation in both the inner life and the external conditions of humanity. This transformation will only occur as a growing body of people unite in principle. We need a divine precept, a covenant to live in peace that we are not allowed to go back on. We need to hone our spiritual capacities to contribute to a process of societal change. We have it in us. I've seen it done. I think that in any age in human interactions seemed impervious and unalterable, but all things fade away eventually. They can do so taking our hearts and hopes with them, or they can do so because our hearts and hopes called for a transformation. There's a wonderful quote that goes like this: personal transformation can and does have global effects. As we go, so goes the world, for the world is us. The revolution that will save the world is ultimately a personal one. Marianne Williamson. Let us begin today. Let us pull together all that is inside of us, the glorious love of life that we have, the unmutable cry for peace, the deep yearning for change, for a new way to live together, and create something enormous and spectacular for this world. I'm hopeful. As quiet as is kept, I am. Let us begin today to transform our inner world and push the sadness and pain of the outer world far out of reach. I want to end with the poem that I wrote for the Peace Poetry reading at Buffalo Street Books. I'm a letter writer, so I often write poems in the forms of letters. My beloved Mariam, we have known one another for over 40 years. You are my dear poet friend. Your activism is long-standing, well noted, even documented by the FBI in the 60s and 70s. I remember that story you told me. A young Jewish woman dating Stokely Carmichael. You are a young adult and part of the Freedom Riders, fighting for peace and the cessation of war, even way back then. I was a child. Well, once again, the war is at hand. Sits with us in our homes, in our minds, taking up the spaces we reserve to feel at peace and at rest. We cannot stop it from entering. You send me daily TikTok and Instagram clips of overwhelmed peace activists overseas, journalists whose families were murdered, the teary vacant eyes of the disconsolate and the despaired, standing stunned amid barren fields, their homes gone. Entire communities gone. Generations of families annihilated. Hope rinsed away, coagulating and blackening in the sand and the dust, along with the blood of uncountable victims. You send me newsreels of International Court of Justice hearings drawing war parallels of now to South Africans' genocide. and the dovetailing effects of a catastrophic hunger, disease, and death that always follows. I often sit quietly at the dinner tables of friends and families during these conversations, listening to their anger and dismay as they grapple with what amounts to oversimplified answers and quick fixes to the world's problems. Conversations laced with unexamined explanations of why these things, these heinous occurrences come to be, explanations that never focus on who we are as people. I think differently. Big pictures of war are made up of pixels of smaller wars that we have with one another. I see the history of attitudes that make those not like us disposable and dispensable. The egregious horrors of wars are the consequences of our collective inhumanity, the swelling of the way we quietly seek revenge. They are the vices of our classism, our racism, our anti-religiousness, our criticisms of how others live, even when they live in search of love like us. War is the predicament of our cultural intolerance, our casting, our need to feel superior, and to view others as obstacles halting us from having more than what we need. I see war in the everyday of how we treat one another and our inability to forgive those who trespass against us, in our road rage, in our fight over property lines, in our indifference and cowardice toward defending against what is wrong, in the way we attack one another in the name of justice, in our obsessive, ill-tempered language policing, in the words and the categories we use to turn our friends against someone we don't like. I see war in how we rationalize our deficiency when it comes to simply being kind. The machinery of war is part of the landscape on which ferocious profiteers build their lavish abodes. The global arms trade, a casual business game for mega corporations like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Ordnance General, Honeywell International, BTX, Northrop Grumman, Rolls-Royce, Airbus, and countless others, whose CEOs and shareholders proudly discuss the clever difference between dumb bombs and precision bombs, as if the ends and the means of either are a measure of a great success. War is the enemy of life. The gears of the arms trade are well greased like the hands of innumerable bankers and politicians. I remember the YouTube video you sent me of the children buried beneath the rubble of what was once a village. Most of them simply dead. Children, just dead. Some with their little hands reaching out, reaching and looking for someone or something to lift them back to their memory of being safe and being held and being fed and loved. Their precious lives once cradled by the adoring and embracing reality of family and community. I see each of them. They are the children of all of us, no matter where they come from. I'm merely a poet, Mariam, who uses words to bring us closer together. I'm merely a preacher who uses scholar and compassion, faith and love to lay the foundation of who we should be to one another. I'm merely a peacemaker who wants to invite every face, every race, every religion, every person I meet into my home and into my heart. I'm merely a teacher who never believed they hit me first was a justification for pummeling another. I'm a follower of those like Dr. King, who said it is not enough to say we must not wage war. It is necessary to love peace and sacrifice everything we have for it. We must concentrate not merely on the negative expulsion of war, but the positive affirmation of peace. And in another quote he stated, unequivocally, war is evil. I take this all in and I have one question and one statement. My question, what is it about this human animal that is so given to hate and violence? My conviction, we must not stop rallying against these atrocities, these crimes against humanity. We must, with every breath we have, call for an end to war, and do so vehemently, loudly, and consistently. With all my love, Peaches. Thank you.
One of the enduring mysteries of the human experience is our capacity to undergo profound changes in the values, modes of thought, self-conceptions, and guiding ideals that have given shape to our lives. Moved by an encounter of sublime beauty in a piece of music, thrust into a new way of life after immigrating to a foreign country, inspired by the courage of a character in a novel, or impelled by the example set by a trusted teacher, we decide to follow a new path for ourselves. One that, just a short time before, was either unforeseeable or seemingly unforgeable for us. We call these experiences transformative, and we often look back on them with gratitude for the person they have made us into, and even with a bit of awe at the obscurity of their inner workings. This from an unsighted author.
I invite you to rise and body your spirit to join in our closing hymn, number 1015 in our teal hymnal, I Know I Can.
Thank you.
we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our service has ended, and let our true service now begin. Please feel free to join us in the parlor for coffee and conversation. Thank you.